The focus of this film is to highlight the degree of brutality and institutional violence that takes place within the prison system. We're focusing on Wormwood Scrubs prison in London, where during the 1990s, the prison officers who worked at the prison inflicted a regime of torture on the prisoners. There were a number of inquiries and investigations into what was going on in Wormwood Scrubs, and it was revealed that there was mental, physical and sexual abuse of prisoners, which were manifested in beatings, mock executions, rapes, death threats and systemic torture. And this went on for over 10 years. And in the late 1990s, there was a police investigation into what was going on in the Scrubs that resulted in the arrest of 27 prison officers, some of whom were imprisoned. There would have been many, many more prosecutions had the prison authorities not spent in excess of £3 million on out-of-court settlements with ex-prisoners. Prisons, structurally, intrinsically, are instruments of violence. And what happened in the Scrubs during the 1990s exposed that so disturbingly. And we need to continue highlighting this because it's going on still within the prison system. This is my friend Gary Johns, and I think it was 1995, wasn't it? You escaped from Wormwood Scrubs prison.
Yeah.
It's quite a spectacular escape, actually. But you were recaptured.
In 96.
In 96, and you were sent straight back to Wormwood Scrubs.
Yeah.
And what happened, if you want to talk about, what happened when you actually got back there?
Well, we were the first ones to ever go back after a major escape to the same prison. God knows why. Leaving the police station, I was put on a bus by the police, taken straight to Wormwood Scrubs. The prison was shut down. They shut the old prison down. There was no one else to see, no cons about. All the cleaners had been taken out of reception, everybody.
Right.
As I walked into the prison and reception, there was just staff all the way lined up. I knew I was in trouble then. As soon as I walked in, and I just heard game, and the next thing after that, I don't know how long it was, I woke up in a strip cell and I was just beaten to a pulp.
And were there any senior governors or board of visitors there?
John, with a board of visitors, you know yourself, you've done enough, Bird. A board of visitors is trying to upset the governor because they have to be employed every year by the governor.
Right.
So if they don't go with the flow, the governors just get rid of them. So the board of visitors are there for show, in my opinion.
And the staff that were in charge of the segregation unit,
Yeah.
and they were doing this to all the prisoners down there, were they?
Yeah, mainly me.
Mainly you, but
It was happening to everyone. What happened, there was a mess in there, drinking like a pub
right.
in the prison.
What, for the staff?
Yeah.
Right.
And they'd come in the morning and they'd beat her at it, but go at dinner time and come back and they'd just start smashing people up.
Really?
It's just a nightmare.
And how serious were the beatings?
It nearly killed me, John.
Really?
They tried to hang me. It's only that someone come through, I think, that I won't be here. And they used to tell you, hang yourself. This is your life now, you're never getting out, hang yourself. That was their attitude. They wanted us to kill ourselves.
Was this violence going on a daily basis?
Daily basis, John.
So they were coming in drunk sometimes?
Most of the afternoons.
Right, and selecting prisoners?
I was put back on the wing once. I was on there a week. They come in, they smashed me to hell, John. And every door, they don't open the doors. Every door from the new wing that had just been done, A wing that had just been done up, they put me on, to the seg. They opened the doors with my head. My head went through them first, John.
So what was the extent of your injuries?
I was smashed to pieces. I've still got sciatic, arthritis in my back now. Every part of my body was beaten, John.
God, must have been awful. You were awarded compensation for what happened to you at Wormwood Scrubs, weren't you?
Yeah, I got a court settlement of £20,000.
So they settled it out of court.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is they obviously didn't want it going to a high court or a civil court and all the evidence emerging about what was going on in the Scrubs.
They didn't want it.
Because I understand they paid something like $3 million to prisoners.
Well, they knew what was going on, John. They just tried to cover it up. after the inquiry, I believe that the man had done an inquiry, asked for a public inquiry, and it was refused.
Yeah.
Why? We've got nothing to hide. Why won't you have a public inquiry?
So you think there was a sort of conspiracy of silence?
I think it was from the top, John.
Right,
really
from the very top.
Yeah.
And they were aware of what was going on, were they?
I'm very aware.
So there was no one actually there at a senior staff level?
John, the people there that was supposed to be looking after us was trying to hurt us.
Really?
And imagine being in that situation where the people who are there to look after you is trying to hurt you. They want you dead.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
So you seriously believe your life was in danger?
Yeah, bruv, I can't believe I've got through it. I can't, honestly.
And what sort of long-term effect did that have on you mentally?
Oh, I've got all sorts of mental health, John. Years later, I went through therapy at Dovegate. I went on therapy in a prison in Ipswich.
Right.
We was together.
Oh, right, Warren Hill.
Warren Hill, that's the one. Yeah, they tried to talk to me about it, but you know what it was? There's a barrier there that they've still staffed, John. I couldn't open up like...
Truly trust them.
Yeah.
So how have you coped since? Because you've been out of jail now 2 years, haven't you?
5 years.
5 years, sorry. And how have you coped now mentally with this?
Well, I don't come out a lot, John. I stay in my flat most of the time. I can't get on buses normally. I get panic attacks. I can't go on the tube. Like, I still wake up in the middle of the night screaming.
Really?
I've been out of prison 5 years, John.
So you still have nightmares?
Regular.
So you've not recovered mentally from it, have you?
I don't think I ever will.
No. This is John Chalmers, and during the 1990s you spent some time in the segregation unit of Wormwood Scrubs. When the staff were operating a regime of terror there, weren't they?
Yeah, you know, as you see, I was there in 1995, you know, and there was a lot of bad press in the prison system, you know what I mean, regarding segregation unit at the Scrubs, you know. But I came through the Scottish prisons. I didn't realise the extent of it until I ended up there myself. When I ended up there myself, you know, it was through my own sort of behaviour that I ended up there. I got myself into a fight, and through getting into a fight, you know, I ended up in that segregation unit.
In the Scrubs?
In the Scrubs, yeah.
And what happened when you first entered the segregation unit there?
When I first entered the segregation unit, as I said, it started, you know, through that fight. The fight happened on the Friday. I was waiting for transfer, you know, to Blunderson. So I was transferred to Blunderson on the Monday, and on the Wednesday, you know, in Blunderson, I went to reception to collect some property, and they've all jumped on top of me and put me in the back of a transit van, all the boots on top of me, you know, just like a normal sort of transit van. You know, they were all standing on top of me in the van, do you know what I mean, you know? And the van was just driving and driving and driving, I didn't know where it was gone, and then I ended up in the segregation unit. The segregation unit was the Scrubs. I recognised that I was in the Scrubs. They've taken me out the locks and taken the handcuffs off me. I was putting my hand up on the window and my other hand up on the window, and I recognised I was back in the Scrubs.
So when did the sort of brutality against you start?
The brutality started, you know, through verbal at the beginning. Who do you think you are? You're Scottish, you know. I was serving 10 years for armed robbery at that particular time, you know. It was on like a grocery shop, but there was a shotgun involved. So, you know, you think you're a hard man, you've just came for the Scottish prisons. Do you know what I mean? You know, you've come into your system and you're attacking people and all that, and I'm going, fuck off, mate. Do you know what I mean? You know, that's the way I was speaking to them. So the next day they've come in, right? This is how it happened. They've come in, says, right, grab that mop and bucket and clean your cell out. So I goes outside, grabs a mop and bucket, walks back in. As I've walked back in, they've whacked me on the back of the nut with something. I don't know what it was, right? But I've went down and I'm on the floor, right? One's holding me down at the front, one's holding me down in the middle, one's got my legs, do you know what I mean? Got my leg, right? There's another one, he's about 18 stone, right? And he's standing, he's got his hands on the wall like that, and he starts jumping on the inside of my knee, my leg, right? And you know, jumping and jumping. The other one's got me in a stranglehold, all that type of stuff. And you know, kicked into me, you know, gave me a beating and concentrated on my knee, you know, jumping on my knee, right? When he leaves the cell, my knee's all swelled up to about that size, you know. So I'm finding it really difficult to get up. I can't stand on it, do you know what I mean? You know, so I'm finding it really difficult to get up. You know, the doctors came in, right, the next day, said to me, what happened to your leg? What happened to your knee? I went, these cunts done it. Do you know what I mean? Pointed at the screws, right? Screws start laughing. Doctors didn't take any notice. I went, mate, listen, I want you to contact the police. They've just jumped on my leg. They've just beat the fucking life out of me. You know what I mean? I want you to contact the police, right? The governor's come in the morning. Do you know what I mean? You know, like my legs all swelled up. They're asking, well, what happened to you? And I went, these cunts done it, right? You know, they're just laughing. You know
Governors are laughing.
The governors are laughing, right? So I went, this is fucking serious. Do you know what I mean? Like, the doctor's only taking any interest. The nurses at that particular time, I think, were screws as well. Do you know what I mean? But the doctor's only taking any interest. Do you know what I mean? The governors are laughing at it, right? I went, I'm in serious trouble here. These people that, you know, I've got an opportunity to take my life here. Do you know what I mean?
And did you really feel your life was in danger?
Yeah, but you know, I really thought, because like, what happened as well, they stopped any access to the outside world.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Any letters or, like, you know, like phone calls or any visits, all that type of stuff. There was no access to the outside world. They stopped all that as well.
So you were totally isolated?
Totally isolated. Do you know what I mean?
And how did you sort of feel psychologically at that time?
Psychologically, I was in a lot of fear. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know if I was going to like, get out of that segregation unit. Also, like, you know, like, that instinct kicks in. You need to fight.
Yeah.
You need to protect yourself. You need to get out of this segregation unit. You know, so like, you know, there was a conflict, a fear. I need to survive. You know, there was conflict between the two of them. Do you know what I mean? You know, I've got to survive this. You know.
How long were you in the seg unit there?
I think I was there for like 4 months.
So 4 months, you had that constant feeling of fear.
Yeah, 40, I think it was 46 months, I'm not 100% sure, you know. But say about 46 months, you know what I mean, you know. So like, I had this fear, you know, like, after like 2 weeks, 3 weeks being there, until I left there, you know. But you know, like, what happened after like, they come in like, and done my leg, you know, like, I went out the next day, right, and like, they're spatting my dinner, you Scottish prick, you know, talking like that to me, you're Scottish prick, and all right, you're a fucking hard man, you know, all that type of stuff. So like, then, like, you know, I've got to defend what's happening, do you know what I mean? Like, for me, I've got to like, fight back now, do you know what I mean? So like, he gives me the dinner after spitting it, and I just hit him right in the face with it, do you know what I mean, you know? And then they've got me back into the cell, right? They've all come in on me again, right? Wrapped me up again, you know, whacked me with battens. I don't know if I went unconscious, but they've whacked me with battens. But you know, when I'm on the floor, they're jumping on my ankle now. You know, they've done my right knee, right? So they started to work on my left ankle, right? Can't walk on this knee, can't walk on this ankle. So I'm starting to crawl a bit. I can't go out for dinner, so they're throwing it on the floor. That type of stuff, you know. That continued like verbal, continued, you know, like just like with kicks and punches and spitting and all that type of stuff on you, do you know what I mean, you know? And then, like, I think about a week passed, right? They've come on me again, got me down again, right? Ripped all my clothes off, you know, like this was like, you know, like, I think it happened all the time. You just rip your clothes off, do you know what I mean, you know? So they ripped all my clothes off, do you know what I mean, you know? And, you know, I don't know what sort of a position they've got me in, but they try to put like, a baton into my arse, or like, some object.
Try to rape you with a baton?
Yeah, rape me, do you know what I mean, you know? So like, at that particular time, right, you know, like, I just felt my world falling apart.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? You know, like, psychologically, you know, that really, you know, like, fucked me. You know, I went, what the fuck's happening here? And I've got this screw, right, when this particular incident was happening, right, got this screw standing in front of me, and he's got his dick out, and he's going, you suck his dick. Oh, that's type of stuff, and I'm going, I'll fucking bite half you. You know, I'm still trying to fight, even though I can't fight, but verbally I'm trying to fight, do you know what I mean, you know? And like, I tries to bite him, do you know what I mean, you know? And like, you know, get my face back into the flare, do you know what I mean, you know? And like, you know, like, after that, you know, like, I didn't think I was going to survive. Mentally, I didn't think I was going to survive. You know what I mean?
And how did you cope with that?
I don't know, have I coped with it at all? Do you know what I mean? You know, like, I never spoke about it for years, you know. Like, I never told anybody about it for years, you know. Like, the only person that, you know, that I spoke to regarding it was my solicitors, you know, like, for the case that we took against the Scrubs, you know.
Because you were awarded compensation.
I was awarded £105,000 in compensation, you know, like, for the sexual assaults, for the rape, you know, like, for the physical assaults, and for a mock execution where they tried to hang me.
They tried to hang you?
They tried to hang me.
And what happened now?
After these incidents, you know, that took place, you know, it just sort of continued on a daily basis, on maybe every couple of days, you know, that there would be some situation, like some, you know, like scenes happening. A few weeks after the incident, the rape incident, you know, they've dragged me at the cell one day, you know. There was a black guy who'd come into the segregation unit, and they've dragged me at the cell one day, and the black guy was hanging on the bars in his cell.
He was dead?
He was dead, you know.
He hung himself?
Yeah.
Or?
They say they hung himself.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? But, you know, in the inquest and all that, they say he hung himself. Do you know what I mean? You know, but, you know, I believe they hung him.
You think they hung him?
Because they dragged me out the cell, you know, the guys were hanging for the bars, and they went, "You're fucking next." You know what I mean? You know, and I went, "What are you talking about, mate? Do you know what I mean? Fucking next. Do you know what I mean? You know, you're going to hang me." I think it was the day after, or 2 days after that, you know, they've come into my cell. Same again, ran in, rushed me, got me down, wrapped me up with tyres that you use for trees, you know, like plant tyres.
Yeah.
Tied my feet together with them, tied my wrists together with them, you know. Put a noose around my neck. It was made up, they brought it in with them, right? Put a noose around my neck, put it up onto the bars, put it through, started pulling it down, you know. I felt myself getting up and going, "No fucking way," do you know what I mean? You know, these cunts are going to hang this, is fucking, you know, like, for real. They pulled me up, and I just heard this scream, and like, I must have went unconscious. And I didn't know for years, like, after, you know, when this happened, I didn't know for years. That scream was somebody else, it wasn't me, you know.
Who was it?
There was a woman who worked here, she worked in the chaplaincy, you know, she was a nun. Apparently she came into the segregation unit to see me, you know, and she came to the cell just as this was taking place, and she screamed, and that's why they let me down, that's why they released me.
So you think if she hadn't have appeared
I'd have been dead.
they would have killed you?
Yeah, I'd have been dead.
Because there were claims that they were hanging prisoners in the segregation.
Oh, definitely, 100%. I was one of them, you know, and I believe I'm one of the survivors. You know what I mean?
And what sort of psychological effect did it have on you after that?
I lost any trust in anybody who worked in the system. Doctors were involved in it, right? Governors were involved in it, do you know what I mean? And prison officers were involved in it. Psychologists, everybody who worked in the system was involved in it, in that particular prison.
They were all complicit.
They were all complicit in it, do you know what I mean, you know? So, I never spoke to a prison officer for 10 years. I never spoke to anybody in uniform for 10 years after that happened. What I found out, like, you know, like, with the doctors and with the governors and everybody who was involved, you know, the General Medical Council came in and like, took all the jobs away from them. You know.
I heard that, yeah.
Yeah, they all lost their jobs. You know, the governors and all that lost their jobs. Prison officers.
Because the doctors were complicit.
Yeah, because they were complicit. Yeah, but in the end, there was like, we took a case against them, you know, we lost, you know, the criminal case, right, but we took a civil action against them after that, and the civil action, you know, there was like 41 prisoners, you know, that came forward, do you know what I mean, on the back of my case. My case was highlighted, you know, in 1997, it was on TV, on the news and that, you know, so like 41 people that came forward, 29 prison officers, you know, that were suspended and lost their jobs. 6 prison officers went to prison.
Were prosecuted.
Were prosecuted for the brutality that took place there. Do you know what I mean? You know.
Were there any governors prosecuted?
I don't think there was any governors prosecuted. There were 6 prison officers prosecuted.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? You know, for the brutality. You know, the General Medical Council sacked the doctors and nurses. You know, that the governors that lost their jobs. You know what I mean? And that it was all sort of a right hush hush. We'll pay out compensation. They ended up paying out £2.8 million in compensation.
Right.
You know. And I think I was the highest paid.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? You know?
And they use that as a means of silencing people?
Yeah, they use it as a means to silence people. You know, I've done a few interviews. I've done an interview with The Guardian, you know, just like, you know, where it's for the civil case, and I've done an interview with Jon Snow on Channel 4 News, you know, in 2003.
Okay.
And like, when I done that interview, I stayed anonymous. You know, I've stayed anonymous right up until now. I didn't want people to know what happened to me.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Mentally, you know, it's been really, really difficult. Do you know what I mean? You know, I've got a lot of good support through like, the I&I team.
Yeah.
You know, and I've got really good support like, through friends. You know what I mean? You know, as well. Put people around me.
Good.
Who helped me like, to function. You know, it's really, really difficult to function coming back into society. Like when you've been through all this brutality, that's only like, sort of like one incident. You know, like what happened at the Scrubs.
But there were others. Yeah.
There's all different prisons where different things have happened. Do you know what I mean? You know, like where the serious situation have happened. Do you know what I mean? You know, I've got another case against like, you know, another prison at the moment. You know, like, for something very similar.
I mean, you've been out a little while now. How do you feel about the people that treated you in that way, particularly at the Scrubs? What's your sort of feelings about that now? Are you able to put it behind you, or does
it's difficult to put behind you?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's very difficult. You know, like, I can't get into like Sainsbury's or Tesco's or Waitrose. Like, if I see somebody in like, a uniform, do you know what I mean? It can trigger me. But you know, I've done a lot of therapy over the years. And wee bits of the therapy have helped here and there, you know, but I can sort of regress back into it very, very easily if I've not got the right support. Yeah.
Right. But you've been out 2 years now.
Yeah.
Okay, John, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Right, so here's Gary and John. So we're going to have a final talk before we go. You've both been out of prison a while now. And, you know, you went through a horrendous experience in Wormwood Scrubs, but you're managing to somehow readapt. What are your sort of last feelings about what you experienced in Wormwood Scrubs that time, John?
I don't believe I'm ever going to fully recover, you know. You know, like, it can be on a daily basis, or it can just be on a moment-to-moment basis. You can be walking down the road, you know, you can get into Sainsbury's and there can be a security guard, you know. It can be, you know, a traffic warden is, you know, I look at somebody in a uniform, I think they're going to do something to harm me. And I've done a lot of work over the years, you know. It's got better, yeah, but it's just sitting like, talking like, what I was talking about today. Yeah. I've got all that inside me, you know, I feel myself churning up inside, you know what I mean? Yeah.
God, what about you, Gary?
I think John said it all for us. I've trouble with uniforms. I've trouble with lots of nightmares. I don't think I'll ever get over what happened to us, but just don't let the bastards beat you, innit? That's my attitude that keeps me going.
You know, it's not just like, it's your relationships as well. It's really, really difficult. After what happened to me in the Scrubs, like, it's really difficult for me, like, you know, like, to be in, like, you know, like, a loving relationship. Do you know what I mean? You know, or an intimate relationship. Right. You know, like, it can really affect me. Yeah.
I think the hardest bit is that no justice. No one is ever charged with it. No one was ever brought to account for what they've done to us.
Yeah, you know, like, I believe there were 6 prison officers went to prison regarding, you know, like, the brutality at the Scrubs. There were 29 prison officers, like, you know, like, who were highlighted, who were charged, but never, you know, like, nothing happened to them.
And no governors were prosecuted.
You know, like, no governors were prosecuted. Do you know what I mean? You know, I think, like, you know, like, the best outcome out of Do you know what I mean? You know, the Scrubs was the General Medical Council sacking the doctors.
Right.
That was the best outcome.
Yeah.
Do you know, that's the best outcome we got.
But the Home Office itself didn't do anything.
No, and you know, what they done, you know, the Ministry of Justice says, right, this is what we're going to do, like, to protect people in prison, right? We'll put cameras in the segregation units, right? To this day, I was released from prison 2 years ago, and I still went through similar situations. They've got all the hidey holes. On the way to the seg, they beat you up. You know, when they get you to the seg, they take you to the strong box where there's no cameras, you know. So the only thing, the best outcome that's ever happened is, like, you know, they doctors losing their jobs through the General Medical Council.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because even like, now, I can't go to a doctor. This is like where how this trauma affects me. I can't go to a male doctor. And that's what happens, you know, that when you experience this sort of a stuff, right? You know, that how do you deal with people in authority? Do you know what I mean? Any type of authority.
Yeah.
No, just police. How do you deal with anybody that's in authority?
Absolutely.
You cannot trust them.
Absolutely.
And then that affects you.
And do you think that's the reason why so many young men in particular reoffend very quickly when leaving prison, because they've been so damaged by the experience?
Of course it is.
Prison doesn't work, does it? And while you're talking about misjustice, can I just say free Jason Moore, please?
Who's Jason Moore, sorry?
He's a boy doing life with no evidence, nothing on him, and they know he's innocent and they won't release him. It's just disgusting the way he's been treated.
Well, you've highlighted it.
Thank you.
Listen, thanks very much for sharing your experience. It must have been very difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, mate.
Sweet.